Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 9 Part 17 based on novel. So let's start. The gigantic energy light pillar rushed into the clouds, as loud thunderous noises rumbled in the surroundings. Waves of energy rippled outwards, causing space itself to warp and distort. All around, astonishment and shock surfaced within countless gazes, as many looked at the strange sights in the sky. The expressions of many experts turned grave. An initial profound life stage expert should not be capable of such an act. This fellow is truly formidable. A few gazes turned grave as they looked towards the thin figure within the light pillar and muttered. They were able to sense exactly how terrifying the attack that Lin Dong had condensed was. It was evident that he truly wanted to settle the battle in a single move. Regarding his decision, a few shrewd and experienced experts did not find this strange. Against three powerful opponents with such strength, the longer he dragged this on, the more disadvantageous it would be for him. Instead, it would be better to utilize one's full power with one's strongest attack and defeat the opponents in a single move. At times like this, any type of probing attacks would not have the slightest use. However, the Weijin trio are not easy to deal with. Gazes suddenly turn around and look towards the three figures within the square. At this time, due to the spectacle that Lin Dong had created, shock had appeared on the faces of those three figures. However, in the next moment, their expressions rapidly turned grim. They understood clearly that if they were defeated by Lin Dong despite collaborating, their fame and reputation would suffer a heavy blow. Wanting to use our fame and reputation as your stepping stone, I think you must be dreaming. Weijin clenched his teeth, as his expression turned sinister and gloomy. In the next instant, his gaze turned towards the similarly overcast Chen Luo and said, "Brother Chen Luo, let's attack with our full power." This brat is indeed not simple. After witnessing the spectacle created by Lin Dong, it was evident that Weijin had completely withdrew his disdain. In addition, he had a clear understanding that he probably could not block the attack by himself. Agreed. Chen Luo nodded his head. Although he did not want to admit it, against the frightening energy pillar that had saturated the sky, a sliver of terror had indeed appeared within his heart. As the two looked at each other, ominous glints flashed past their faces. One wielded a giant blade, the other wielded a long black spear. At this instant, two abnormally boundless yuan power unfurled from their bodies. Hum hum. The boundless yuan power that surrounded the two seemed to transform into a storm, as they revolved violently. Yuan power rubbed and chafed with the air, producing piercing buzzing sounds. Beside the two of them, Wei Li had also urged the yuan power within his body to its extreme. Although the quantity of his yuan power was inferior to that of Weijin and Chen Luo, the strength of a peak initial profound life stage expert was still quite astonishing. Lin Dong. Today, I want to see exactly how capable you are, to actually dare claim that you'll be able to finish us off in a single move. Weijin held his giant blade and roared towards the heavens. An exceptionally swift and fierce blade glint instantly bubbled up within his eyes. Berserk yuan power shock gathered above his head, forming the shape of a mountain with a blade-shaped peak. A blade glint pervaded the air. It seemed to possess the frightening ability to slice apart space itself. Hum. Compared to the overbearing aura of Wei Chen, Chen Luo appeared exceptionally gloomy and sinister, as greyish-black qi curled around his body. The qi was like terrible spirits as they bored into the long black spear in his hands. The piercing screams of thousands upon thousands of ghosts was rather horrifying. Anyone could see that this Weijin, as well as Chen Luo, appeared to be displaying their strongest attack. Obviously, they were very clear that Lin Dong had put everything into this attack. As long as they could block it, Lin Dong would definitely have exhausted his limited abilities and would definitely lose. Lin Dong hovered within the light pillar. Indifference surfaced within those pitch-black eyes as he looked towards the two people in the distance, whose auras were blotting the skies. In the next instant, his changing hand seals quietly froze. Bang! The instant Lin Dong's hand seals froze, the space behind him instantly shattered, as dark void pervaded out. Within the void, a faint and blurry figure appeared. It was as if it came from an ancient time, and brought along a frightening fighting intent. This fighting intent spread out in this stretch of world, causing the scalps of innumerable people to turn somewhat numb. At this instant, they felt the blood within their body flare up. This kind of fighting intent was somehow able to affect their hearts and minds. Roar? Within the void, the figure that had passed through time faced the heavens and roared. Its roar seemed to contain an endless, world-shaking fury. Bang bang bang. As the roar sounded out, the yuan power in this stretch of the world immediately exploded. In the next instant, the figure took a step forward. With this step, it seemed to break through the void and emerge into the real world. Boom! However, the figure was still unable to break through the boundary between time and space. As its foot stepped forward, an endless fighting intent condensed, and formed a giant glowing seal, which descended with a loud rumble. In the next instant, it broke through the void, and ruthlessly fell onto the Weijian trio. Before the giant glowing seal condensed from fighting intent touched the ground, the entire mountain peak was already shaking. On the square below, the ground within 1,000 radius spontaneously collapsed, creating a gigantic black hole. Mountain transformed into blade, cut. Weijian raised his head, and looked at the giant glowing seal that had passed through the void with a grave expression. Under its frightening fluctuations, all of the fine hairs on his body were standing straight up. Quickly after, his eyes suddenly turned stern, as his hands clenched tightly on the hilt of his giant blade. With a roar, he chopped down furiously. Bang! The instant the giant blade chopped down, the mountain that had formed above his head started to tremble violently. The main peak proceeded to break off, as boundless blade glint swept across the sky. The peak burst open, transforming into a mountain blade thousands of feet long. In the next instant, it inclined and chopped down towards that glowing fighting intent seal. Beside him, Chen Luo also roared at the heavens, while greyish-black mist saturated the air around him. Innumerable strange ghost faces appeared on the surface of the long spear in his hand, as sinister and cold fluctuations radiated out. 10,000 soul-devouring ghost spear. Chen Luo's palm suddenly patted the shaft of the spear as it tore through the air. Black mist curled around it, transforming it into a black meteor. It pierced through the void, and viciously howled towards the glowing fighting intent seal. Furious waves swallowing whale palm. Behind the two, Wei Li used all of his yuan power to display the strongest attack he had, and sent it rumbling out. Bang bang. 3 extremely tyrannical attacks shot through the sky with an astonishing speed. Under the countless fiery gazes and bated breaths, they collided violently with the descending glowing seal. Boom! At the instant of the collision, the entire stretch of world seemed to turn quiet. Next, everyone saw tyrannical energies crazily erupting in the sky. It was akin to a volcano that erupted in the sky, exceptionally loud and terrifying. The berserk energies swept out in an unparalleled manner, causing a few experts who were floating in the air to suffer from the aftershocks. They spurted mouthfuls of blood, before hurriedly descending in a miserable manner. The older generation of the 4 clans immediately took action, as vigorous yuan power radiated out, forming a barrier that shielded the seats of the various clans. Only by doing so did they avoid any injuries. However, the ear-piercing creaks when those energies impacted the barrier caused the expressions of many people to change. If such an attack landed on one's body, there would likely be nothing left of the person. The remnant energies spread frantically, lasting for several seconds before gradually dissipating. At this instant, the entire mountaintop appeared exceedingly disordered and chaotic. Many unlucky fellows who were caught in the aftermath had disheveled hairs and looked extremely miserable. This chaos lasted for a while, before gaze after gaze turned towards the sky with swishing sounds. They wanted to know the result immediately. Fiery gazes converged in the sky. In the next instant, they saw 4 figures facing off in the distant skies. Ugh! Under the convergence of those innumerable gazes, Wei Li was the first to spurt out a mouthful of blood, before the clothes on his body exploded. Blood spurted and shot out of the pores of his skin, as he fell headfirst towards the ground. His aura was extremely weak, and it was obvious that he had suffered extremely serious injuries. How is this possible? Wei Zhen's hair draped across his shoulder, with blood stains covered his entire face. His hands trembled as they held onto the giant blade, while blood dripped down from the sharp end of his blade. Currently, his originally grim and fierce eyes were now filled with terror and disbelief. He was truly unable to believe that with their combined strength, Lin Dong had still forced them into such a state. Beside Wei Zhen, Chen Luo's palms were still holding tightly onto the long black spear. However, his faintly trembling body revealed that the situation within his body was not calm. Lin Dong's pitch-black eyes stared at the two of them, before two low and deep muffled noises rang out from his body, as two bloody holes exploded on his arm. However, he only spared a light glance at his injuries, before withdrawing his gaze, and proceeded to stare indifferently at the two people standing in the air in front of him. "You've lost." An indifferent voice rang out slowly from Lin Dong's mouth. "Ugh." Just as his words rang out, Wei Zhen and Chen Luo each spurted a mouthful of blood. Cracks had actually appeared on the surface of the giant blade and black spear, as their brilliance became extremely dim. As they spurted out blood, the two of them appeared like birds with broken wings, as they helplessly fell from the sky, while drawing dark red scars in the air. Under the deathly silence that occupied the entire mountain, they landed heavily on the ground. The immense force of their landing created gigantic fissures on the ground. As the two landed on the ground with a loud bang, the entire area was filled by a deathly silence. Countless gazes stared at the two bloody figures, as their mouths slowly started to fall open. Can the result be announced? Silence filled the entire mountain. Lin Dong stood in the air, as he quietly used his slightly trembling hands to rub away the bloodstains on his arms. Subsequently, he turned his gaze towards the Shinto clan referee, as a flat and soft inquiry slowly echoed within the silence. Lin Dong's soft voice unhurriedly rang out through the silence. At the same time, it caused the numerous people, who were immersed in shock, to gradually regain their senses. He actually won. Many people looked at one another, and saw the great shock and astonishment that filled all their faces. Even though they had personally witnessed what had happened, they were still unable to accept the shocking reality for a time. Those were three peak initial profound life stage experts. Among them, Wei Zhen and Chen Luo even possessed the strength to break through to the advanced profound life stage. However, even though those three powerful people had joined hands, they had still been defeated at Lin Dong's hands in a single round. This spectacle was undoubtedly extremely shocking. In the air, the Shinto clan referee stared somewhat dumbfoundedly at the scene before him, before gradually regaining his senses a short while later. He looked towards the thin figure standing high in the sky, as graveness gushed out in his eyes. With Lin Dong's previous performance, he clearly had the qualifications of challenging the heaven-blessed prodigy of their Shinto clan, Shinto Ju. Azura method, Lin Dong's victory. The Gu clan wins. When the referee's deep and low roar rang out within the sky, waves of noise emerged. This ending had really exceeded everyone's expectations. In the Wei clan direction, the faces of the older generation were all ashen. This was originally a definite win, however, it had been completely reversed. Such a contrast was truly unbearable and hard to accept. That bastard! Where exactly did he come from? A Wei clan older generation exclaimed hatefully while clenching his teeth. I've never heard of him before. I believe that he should not be from the Heaven Wind Sea region. If not, it won't be possible for him to be without any fame and reputation. Another person replied gloomily. He dares to go against our Wei clan. Truly a reckless one. A person exclaimed with a gloomy and sinister expression. Find out the origins of that brat. As many of the older generation of the Wei clan's side were flying into a rage, the Gu clan's side was instantly enveloped with thunderous cheers of joy and happiness. Every Gu clan member, even a steady and calm elder like Gu Shou, could not resist the emotion in their hearts, and stood up. Their hands gently hung at their sides, as they continuously nodded their heads. Such a formidable fellow. Gu Yunqian exhaled deeply, while his eyes filled with admiration. He knew that if he were the one who needed to challenge the Azura method, he would absolutely not have the courage to do so. Gu Mingqi smiled faintly and sweetly, a smile that was gentle and alluring. Her eyes were sparkling with extraordinary splendor as she looked towards the thin figure in the sky. In the air, Lin Dong turned around and descended to the Gu clan seats under the countless watching gazes around him. Upon landing, a fragrance swept towards him as he saw a smiling Gu Mengqi standing before him. With a gentle voice, she asked, "You all right?" Lin Dong looked at Gu Mengqi and her alluring smile as he shook his head. He was indeed unaccustomed to such a gentle tone from the latter. Although she was normally gentle, her gentleness had something that made it difficult for people to get close to her. However, at this moment, that feeling seemed to have vanished completely. "How much longer before we can challenge the Shinto clan?" Lin Dong asked while looking towards Gu Shou. "Ha ha, don't worry now. You've fought in consecutive battles today, and should be exceptionally tired. Take a rest first for today. Tomorrow, we'll head up the mountain and commence the final fight." Gu Shou replied with a smile, while shaking his head. His tone had turned exceptionally good-natured, as Lin Dong had become more and more pleasing to his eye. "After tomorrow's fight, we'll be able to decide who the quotas for the Chaotic Tower goes to, right?" Lin Dong asked softly. "Yes." Gu Shou replied while nodding his head, before continuing, "After tomorrow, if our clan is able to obtain the quotas for the Chaotic Tower, you'll be able to enter the Chaotic Tower." "Ha ha, I see that little friend Lin Dong here seems to be alone. It just happens that the clan is currently lacking a sinecure. If you are able to stay in the Gu clan temporarily, I think that you'll also be able to obtain the quota to enter the Chaotic Tower next year. This should be extremely beneficial to your training." Gu Shou's eyes rotated, before suddenly speaking towards Lin Dong with a smile on his face. His words were thick with the intent of enticing Lin Dong. After personally witnessing Lin Dong's fight today, it was evident that he was extremely moved. Possessing such talent at this age, Lin Dong would indeed be comparable with the Shinto clan's Shinto Ju in future. Lin Dong shot a look at Gu Shou. Smiling, he shook his head and replied, "I'm sorry, Elder Gu Shou. I have matters to attend to, and perhaps I will have to leave after handling this matter. Therefore, I'm afraid that I'm unable to stay here for long." Hearing his reply, a sliver of disappointment flashed past Gu Shou's old face. However, there was nothing else he could say or do, but nod his head and say, "Since that is the case, I won't force you." After Gu Shou spoke, an old man dressed in blue rose into the sky from where the Shinto clan was situated. His gaze swept in all directions, before it sparkled swiftly and fiercely, and finally came to a rest on Lin Dong's body. His gaze was somewhat grave. Obviously, the usually haughty Shinto clan felt somewhat threatened by Lin Dong. "That's the Shinto clan elder, Shinto Dao," Gu Shou said in a soft voice. "According to the results, the Gu clan has won today's martial gathering. They now possess the qualifications to challenge the Shinto clan. If they are able to win again, this year's quotas for entering the Chaotic Tower will be given to the Gu clan." The blue-robed elder's vigorous voice swept across the area, a strong yuan power drummed within, causing people's eardrums to feel a piercing pain. "What will the format for tomorrow's fight for the tower be?" After listening to the vigorous voice, Lin Dong posed his question. "There aren't much limitations. As long as you're able to defeat the tower's defender, Shinto Ju, that will be it. Naturally, we can also send 3 people." Gu Shou replied. "3 people, huh?" Lin Dong muttered to himself, before slowly shaking his head. In fights like this, having more people present will instead make it more complicated. Although Lin Dong had yet to cross hands with Shinto Ju, he was already able to sense how powerful he was, and how difficult it would be to deal with him. He was indeed much stronger compared to Wei Zhen and Chen Luo. Facing such an opponent, simply relying on a numbers may result in failing to achieve the expected advantage. "You mean that?" Gu Shou's gaze sharpened, before looking at Lin Dong. "You're going to continue fighting solo?" Lin Dong nodded his head. It was not that he wanted to boast, but he did not wish for teammates without prior chemistry to disrupt his attacks, as that would instead reduce his battle power. He knew that the battle with Shinto Ju would be a hard one. However, for the sake of entering the Chaotic Tower, it was absolutely impossible for him to stop here. Gu Shou hesitated for a while, before finally nodding his head as he said, "Since you insist, we'll follow your wishes. However, you have to be more careful. Shintu-ju is very strong." Although Ji Yusho wished to say that Shintu-ju was someone that people like Wei Xin could not match up to, he now knew that the youth in front of him was also no ordinary individual. Lin Dong's performance today had practically won everyone over, and at the same time, had cleared all the doubts and suspicions placed on him. Upon hearing Ji Yusho's grave tone, Lin Dong nodded his head faintly. How could a figure that was dreaded by all the geniuses within the four great clans be dealt with so easily? In the distance, the Shintu clan elder turned around and left after his final announcement. The countless experts in the area gradually scattered, as they prepared to return to the city at the foot of the mountain. Upon seeing this, Lin Dong also prepared to leave with the Ji clan members. However, just as he took a step forward, his expression suddenly turned serious as he abruptly turned his head around and looked towards the summit of the mountain. Above the peak, a figure was standing upright in midair. A heavy aura, which made one feel difficulty breathing, was faintly discernible as it slowly radiated out. That is. In the surrounding area, everyone who was originally leaving stopped in their tracks, as their stunned gazes looked towards the figure at the mountain peak. Subsequently, their expressions turned grave, as they sensed the pressure from the formidable aura. Iron Azura Shintu-ju. Cries of shock and alarm suddenly rang out, followed by an uproar. Many of those present were quite familiar with this name. That's Shintu-ju, huh? Lin Dong muttered as eyes slightly trembled. Under the attention of countless gazes, the gaze of the figure at the mountain summit skipped over the massive crowd, before coming to a rest on Lin Dong's body. Bang! As that gaze shot over, solemnness suddenly flashed within Lin Dong's eyes. In the next instant, he felt the yuan power in the sky in front of him frantically gather. It condensed into a yuan power mountain peak, which viciously fell downwards. Lin Dong raised his head and looked towards the descending yuan power mountain peak. With a flick of his finger, a scarlet-red flash of light shot out, transforming into a giant cauldron that directly clashed with the yuan power mountain peak. Clang! A clear ringing sound rang out, as the yuan power mountain peak instantly crumbled. The giant cauldron was sent shooting backwards, before finally tunneling back into Lin Dong's body. Lin Dong raised his head and looked at the figure with a stern gaze, while slowly saying, "Do you wish to bring the match forward?" Ha ha! The figure at the mountain summit seemed to chuckle softly. Subsequently, everyone could hear a low muttering voice ring out, "You're truly an interesting fellow. Go take a good night's rest. With your current condition, I'm afraid you aren't capable of such a feat. Tomorrow, I'll wait for you in front of the chaotic tower." As those words appeared, the figure slowly descended, and finally disappeared. Lin Dong looked towards the place where the figure had disappeared. His eyes gradually narrowed into a somewhat dangerous arc. Night enveloped Martial Gathering Island. The ice-cold moonlight mixed with the sea wind sprinkled down on the island, which had been rather noisy for an entire day. At the same time, it gradually calmed the restless atmosphere resulting from the intense battles that had occurred during the day. However, though the restless atmosphere was gradually calming down, there was an undercurrent of excitement and fervor. Everyone knew that today, only the elimination rounds were concluded. The true fight would be tomorrow's tower defense battle. Only a fight like that could be considered as the true essence of the martial gathering. Would it be the dark horse Lin Dong, who had emerged so swiftly and violently, or would the Shinto clan's Iron Azura achieve a domineering victory? Everything would be revealed the next day. Towards the outcome of this match, countless people had an intense anticipation in their hearts. Within a dark and quiet courtyard, Lin Dong's eyes were faintly shut as he sat atop a stone pillar. Strands of devouring force dispersed, absorbing the surrounding energy of the land. As the yuan power was absorbed into his body, green light surged beneath Lin Dong's skin. The green heaven materialized dragon skill was automatically circulating as it endlessly tempered Lin Dong's body. Hum. The green light sparkled for a long time, before a faint humming noise suddenly rang out from under his skin. Under the skin on Lin Dong's arm, green light appeared to condense, finally transforming into a green dragon light tattoo. After the condensation of the light tattoo, it was rapidly concealed. After the green dragon-like tattoo was hidden, Lin Dong's eyes opened. He stroked his arm and gently exhaled. Currently, he could only condense 4 green dragon-like tattoos. He had used one during the day, but fortunately, he was able to use this opportunity to condense another one. This way, when he crossed hands with Shintu-ju tomorrow, he would be at his optimum condition. That fellow. Lin Dong raised his head. His gaze pierced through the night sky, towards the summit of the giant mountain at the center of the island. The Iron Azura stood guard there, and was also the strongest opponent he had to face to obtain the quota for the Chaotic Tower. From their initial meeting in the day, Lin Dong could feel that Shintu-ju had likely already advanced to the advanced profound life stage. When his Yuan power had gathered, his life chi was boundless. His Yuan power was like an ocean that was endlessly growing and multiplying, making it difficult for anyone to resist. Such strength was much greater than that of Wei Zhen and Chen Luo. After all, within the profound life stage, there was a distinct difference between every stage. Crossing that barrier was no simple matter. With these thoughts, Lin Dong could not help but reflect on the situation. Although Shintu-ju was so powerful, he was only ranked 3rd within the younger generation in the Heaven Wind Sea region. This made him wonder, what kind of monsters were those 2 ranked above Shintu-ju? Most importantly, the Heaven Wind Sea region was only one of the many sea regions within the Chaotic Demon Sea. Within the other sea regions, there obviously existed others with similar strength, or even monsters that were even more powerful. Truly worthy of the Chaotic Demon Sea. Lin Dong faintly pursed his lips. As a whole, the strength of the Chaotic Demon Sea was higher than the Eastern Xian region. The reason for this might be the unstable environment in the Chaotic Demon Sea. The Eastern Xian region was clearly more peaceful and stable. Tomorrow will indeed be a bitter fight. Lin Dong muttered to himself. Regardless of how difficult it would be to deal with Shintu-ju, he would not give up at such a time. The Chaotic Tower could repair the stone talisman. To him, this was an extremely important matter. Therefore, not only could he not shrink back in this fight, but he definitely needed to achieve victory. Oh! A solemn look flashed past Lin Dong's eyes. Raising his head, he saw a graceful and beautiful figure standing at the door of the courtyard. Her pure white dress drew out her full and alluring curves. That gentle and beautiful appearance belonged to Ji Yu Mengqi. Miss Mengqi, is there something I can help you with? Lin Dong sent a smile towards Ji Yu Mengqi and asked. Ji Yu Mengqi gave a sweet and gentle smile. With lotus steps, she walked over to Lin Dong. Raising her fair hand, a thick lambskin parchment appeared within it. Yes, I've heard from Little Yang that you need a sea map of the Chaotic Demon Sea. Upon hearing this, a happy expression bubbled forth from within Lin Dong's eyes, as he hurriedly extended his hand to receive it from her, before caressing it fondly. With this map, he would be able to search for the precise location of the second ancestral symbol. Many thanks, Miss Mengqi. Ji Yu Mengqi looked at the joyous Lin Dong, as her long and narrow peach blossom-like pupils formed a happy arc, before saying in a soft voice, You've helped the Ji Yu clan a great deal, such rewards are only natural. Aren't you supposed to give me these rewards after I've helped you obtain victory? Giving this to me now, aren't you worried that I'll lose to Shintu-ju tomorrow, wasting all our efforts? Lin Dong replied with a joking smile. That might be the case, Ji Yu Mengqi replied as she tilted her head slightly. Due to their close proximity, Lin Dong was able to see her slender snow-white neck. That jade-like luster really made one have the urge to take a bite. However, I believe in you. Ji Yu Mengqi's beautiful eyes seemed to smile, as she turned towards Lin Dong with a smile on her face. Lin Dong gawked, before smiling as he shook his head. Never did he expect that Ji Yu Mengqi would have such confidence in him. Shintu-ju was no ordinary individual. You're truly not willing to stay in the Ji Yu clan? Actually, being a Ji Yu clan sinecure won't restrict your freedom. After hesitating for a while, Ji Yu Mengqi suddenly spoke out. I'm sorry. Lin Dong apologized and shook his head. He knew of the Ji Yu clan's intent to recruit him, however, he knew that staying here would not make him truly strong. He never wanted to experience what had happened in Unique Devil City a second time. Ji Mengqi's eyes slightly dimmed for a while. However, the intelligent her knew that saying more would be pointless and could only softly sigh. After which, she said in a soft voice, regarding the issue of the sea map, Little Yang should have already told you that there are many unexplored regions in the chaotic Demon Sea. Therefore, you might not be able to find what you desire from this sea map. Lin Dong nodded his head somewhat helplessly. It was obvious that in his current state, he could do nothing about this. The chaotic Demon Sea was indeed too vast and gigantic. However, sea maps of unexplored regions will appear at large-scale auctions. Those are made by the sea demon race. If you ever chance upon such an auction, you can try your luck there. Thank you. Lin Dong nodded his head. This information was undeniably extremely valuable to him. He clearly understood how important it was for him to obtain the second ancestral symbol. Ji Mengqi shook her head. After telling Lin Dong a little more, she turned around and walked off. While she left, the hidden bitterness in her eyes made the Lin Dong laugh bitterly for a while. This was indeed the first time that he realized that he had such charm, and was unexpectedly able to cause the Ji clan's big miss fancy him a little. Unfortunately, it was after all a case of unrequited love. After Ji Mengqi left, Lin Dong carried the sea map and quickly entered the room. Opening it impatiently, his mental energy extended out, absorbing this extremely complicated sea map into his mind. The complexity of the sea map was beyond his expectations. Therefore, even with Lin Dong's mental energy, he had to spend half an hour before completely imprinting it in his mind. After doing so, he closed his eyes tightly, and compared the sea map with the map he had of the second ancestral symbol. This comparison continued for 2 full hours. However, Lin Dong's expression gradually turned ugly. From the looks of it, he still did not achieve the result that he had hoped for. Crash! The sea map was gently placed down by Lin Dong. He slowly opened his eyes, before smiling bitterly and shaking his head. After comparing the map of the second ancestral symbol and sea regions of the chaotic Demon Sea, he was still unable to find a matching location. It was evident that the place that the second ancestral symbol resided was not within an explored region. This result made Lin Dong somewhat disappointed. However, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Since it was in a region that was yet to be explored, that meant that the chances of the second ancestral symbol being obtained by someone else would be lower. Looks like the only thing I can do is to search those large-scale auctions, and see if I can obtain sea maps of the unexplored sea regions. Lin Dong muttered to himself. The chaotic Demon Sea was incomparably vast. If he was to rely solely on his own power to search, it was likely that there would be no results even after several years. However, it was obvious that Lin Dong did not have such luxury. He needed to return to the Eastern Xian region within 2 to 3 years. Furthermore, he needed to drastically increase his strength, and also obtain the second ancestral symbol. If not, when he returned to the Eastern Xian region, he would be unable to help the Great Desolation Tablet destroy the King-grade Yimo that was suppressing it. Thus, the sea maps of those unexplored regions were what he needed the most. Lin Dong wrinkled his forehead faintly, as he shook his head. Keeping the sea map in his Qianquan bag, he proceeded to sit on his bed. At this current moment, it would be best to put aside the issue about the sea maps. The matter of vital importance was still to gain entry to the chaotic tower. Currently, he should use his full strength to deal with the earth-shattering fight tomorrow that would definitely cause a stir in the Heaven Wind Sea region. This video will end here.